So Everybody Hates Chris was created by Chris Rock from 2005 to 2009. It had about 4 seasons, and it's a very good show. It was very entertaining, and it's really about the life of Chris Rock. Chris Rock was bullied as a child. He was the only black kid in his whole school, and there might have been maybe two other black kids at the school, but he was the only black kid at the school, so he was considered token. And I actually, to be honest, I think South Park made fun of Chris Rock because there's a black kid named Token in South Park. But Chris Rock was faced a lot of racism at his school. He was picked on, called names, racial slurs were thrown around. He only had a couple of friends. He said he was kind of like a geek, a nerd. He couldn't fit in. He might have had maybe one or two white friends. But the show Everybody Hates Chris is very entertaining. As far as I know, Chris Rock has a lot of brothers and sisters. But in the TV show Everybody Hates Chris, he only has a brother, a younger brother, and a younger sister. His parents are very strict. They're hardworking. His father works. They're very decent people. You know, they're not ghetto. They're not thugs. They're not gangsters. They don't, they don't smoke. They don't drink. Chris Rock was always into comedian. He would watch Richard Pryor. He would watch people like Eddie Murphy. He would watch people like he would watch a lot of comedians, and he learned his comedian. He would watch it when he was a child. He would listen to Red Fox. He listened to a lot of comedians, and he would try to practice how to make himself funny. His family had a lot of problems because he had a lot of brothers and sisters. Even though his parents were hardworking, his mother was hardworking. They were a good family. They were nice people. They were not bad people. They didn't cuss a lot. They were very strict. And Chris Rock had problems in school too because his problems in the TV show you have Chris, and Chris is about 13, and by the time the show ends, he's about 17. He's 18. And the show is always about Chris. Everybody Hates Chris is about Chris Rock being the only African American boy at his all Caucasian school. And there's Caruso is a white kid who bullies him around. He's kind of fat, short, chubby white kid, and his friends keep harassing him every day at school. He faces humiliation. He can't get a girlfriend. The girls seem to ignore him. He actually said he didn't get a girlfriend until he was about in his 20s. Until he got famous. But he does get a girlfriend later on. I think Keisha has a crush on Keisha, and then there's Tasha. Tasha is a light skinned girl that becomes his girlfriend later on in the series. But as I can say, the show was very. I loved the show. It was different. It wasn't buffoonery. He actually dropped out of high school because, and I'm going to tell you this, Chris Rock dropped out of high school because he was not the best looking guy in the world. He was short. I guess he was skinny, lanky. He was probably kind of considered weird or awkward. And he couldn't. And the show makes fun of him. I congratulate, and I also feel sorry for Chris Rock because he didn't. He didn't have an easy life growing up. He said when he would play dodgeball, he was picked last. Because he dealt with a lot, being picked on, bullied, mistreated. Walking around school and people saying, he said people would run away from him. Every time kids saw him, they would run from him because he was black. They didn't. I guess a lot of white kids they didn't grow up around the black people, so they kept saying he looked like Gary Coleman, and they said that he looked like Emmanuel Lewis, or he looked like Michael Jackson. They kept asking him questions like, "Are you related to the Jackson 5?" And so Chris Rock faced a lot of humiliation and abuse from the white kids because because of the color of his skin. So I know it was probably hard for him to do this show. Everybody Hates Chris. He's the narrator, and am I a big fan of Chris Rock? He has done a couple of good movies. He was in New Jack City. He was in a couple of other movies. He's done a lot of. He was in Rush Hour 4. That was a good movie too. He's done a couple of movies, and he's a comedian. I think he's funny. He's a little annoying, but he's very funny. But I just want to give my respect to Chris Rock. But he got his GED, and he dropped out of high school. He got his GED, and he went to Hollywood. He started doing stand up, and people started laughing. When he first started doing it, people didn't really like him, but he started practicing, and his family helped him become funny. And now he's a very successful man, multi-millionaire. His parent, he makes sure bought his parents homes and cars and stuff like that. So he's doing pretty good in life right now. Mr. J here, peace.